This is the 2015 E3 Path Plus from IZIP. It's a bike that's been around for several years. It used to be called just the Path. 2014 they introduced the Path Plus, and this is the updated version. And not a whole lot has changed, but they've refined it a little bit, and in my experience it's a little bit more comfortable, and also probably a tad more reliable, because this motor is shared with the dash, and that was the case before. And in early 2014 there were some issues. There was like a magnet issue that cropped up, and Curry responded to that, and they helped the customers, but they went ahead and updated the motor design a little bit to prevent that. So what you're getting here is a really next generation electric bike in a lot of ways, but it's a little bit more refined because this is the second gen. So let me talk about the bike specs to start off with, because that's primarily what this is. This is a great around town kind of commuter, comfortable, upright seating position, swept back, sort of gull wing style handlebars. Really comfortable, semi-ergo grips. You know, they're not ergon, they're not the fanciest things, but they are a little bit more comfortable, kind of squishy. They've updated the brake levers. Before, I think they were using Tektro, and these ones are a step up from there, and they actually include a cutoff to the motor system. So when you pull the brakes, you're not just activating the disc brakes, you're also cutting power to the motor. Now the disc brakes are mechanical. These are Promax rotors, 160 millimeters front and rear. Pretty solid, pretty easy to activate. Not quite as high-end as like hydraulic, but you know, it keeps this bike a little bit more affordable. It's about $2,600 MSRP, which is not too bad considering all the extras. You've got your plastic sort of composite fenders front and rear, and they've got these little mud flaps, and they operate pretty well. You know, I'm not hearing a whole lot of rattling when I ride this around. This is a new bike that I'm testing, but it sounds pretty good. We've got this rear rack right here that uses standard gauge tubing, so you can put those clip-on panniers if you want, or maybe like a bag back here. And of course that's also where the battery sits, but a little bit more on this. You can see they've got this rubber bungee cord that's pretty cool, and if you push this down and twist it sideways, it comes right out. So you can latch this over something and then, you know, kind of put it back in. Just a neat little extra. The rack itself is bolted down pretty well right here on the seat stays, and again right here. And that's a good thing because it is holding the weight of the battery. This is a little bit more of a rear heavy bike, as you can see, because it's got the motor and the battery there, and the kickstand, which I actually like. But before I get into the drive system, let me just continue on, because there's a lot here to show. These pedals are solid. They offer pretty good response when you push on them, but they're not quite as grippy as like metal studs. They've got this rubberized thing, and so if they get wet, they could be a little more slippery. The front chainring actually has an aluminum like bash guard built into it, which is great. So if you hit a curb or something, it protects the teeth in there. And then you can see there's like a 12 magnet cadence sensor right behind that, and that's what tells the motor to activate. And 12 sensors is kind of the upper limit of what I've seen, and so it's a very smooth pedal assist, and I'll get to that in a few. Back here we have 8 speeds. Let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, 8 speeds. Shimano Altus derailleur here. You know, works pretty well, and by not having any extra rings on the front, the chain stays a little bit tighter. It's not going to fall off as easily, and it's going to stay tuned up. You're not going to have to get it serviced as much. There's a nice little kind of a chain guard, and that's just going to protect your pants or whatever if you're commuting to work, or maybe you're wearing a dress or something. So nice little extras. The only thing that this bike doesn't have, oh, by the way, pre-slime tires. The only thing this bike doesn't have is lights, but it is pre-wired for lights. So you can see this wire hanging down right here. Last year, IZIP had a couple bikes like this that they said, oh, they're pre-wired, and they never came out with the lights. But this year, I just talked to a rep, and they're like, yep, they're definitely coming, and so you could have those added on. And that's always nice to run everything off of your main battery pack instead of having to, you know, have separate batteries or separate rechargeable things. It just takes extra time and energy to deal with. So I really like that. I'm glad they did that. And let's see, there's the kickstand. They've got a nice quick release for the rear rear wheel, and you can see there's sort of modular, so you could disconnect this. Makes it a little easier to true the wheel or deal with the tire, which is nice. One of the upgrades this year is this seat. They've changed it around a little bit. It's not super soft, but it is a little bit wider, and it offers pretty good support. So, you know, I'm kind of indifferent on that. It's stylish for sure, and this bike does come in 2 sizes of step through, which are both like this white, they call it cream, and 2 sizes of high step, which is gray. So there's a little bit of a size choice there for you. And this one's especially easy to mount because you just, you know, step across like this. You can stand over it easily. You don't have to worry about, you know, starting from a light and having to kind of like balance on the seat or something like that. I'm a fan of that. And then they've got the nice bell. And now we can get into the drive system. So I love the fact that the battery pack is removable. You can see it locks right here. It's a little bit of a rear heavy bike, as mentioned earlier, but frankly, you know, it works fine, and you get the rack in the deal. A bike like this, you know, there's no suspension. This is meant to just cruise around on the streets, and it does that really well. It's very efficient. These tires are 700 by 38C, which 38C is sort of the width. You know, they're a little bit wider than a road bike tire, but not quite as wide as like a balloon tire. So you get more efficiency and not quite as much shock absorption. Again, there's no suspension post. So if you live somewhere super bumpy, you might consider getting like a seat post shock or something like that to help you out. But all in all, it feels pretty solid. The motor on this thing is pretty incredible. It's a 500 watt gearless direct drive motor. So gearless is extremely quiet. There's no gears like moving around in there. 500 watts is pretty high. That's a good amount of power. But because there aren't any gears, it doesn't have quite the same like torque. So when you're starting out, it helps to sort of pedal a little bit to get it going. But once you do, you know, even if you don't pedal and you just use the throttle, it starts a little slower. It's very smooth, very quiet. Almost you kind of can't even hear it. You do get a little bit of cogging, which is, you know, when there's like the stator, there's these metal like rails in there, and there's magnets passing those, and when the bike's completely off, they're still passing each other, and the magnets, you can't turn them off, so they're repelling the motor casing a little bit, or the stator, and that slows it down. So let me give you an example of cogging here, and this is the case with all gearless direct drive motors, so just worth keeping in mind. So yeah, it doesn't coast quite as efficiently, but the benefits there are super quiet and pretty tough. I mean, there's no gears rubbing around, so it's going to last a long time, and that's kind of nice. Again, this bike uses a cadence sensor, whereas the E3 Dash, which basically uses the same motor, that one has like a torque sensor and kind of a cadence sensor. It's a little bit fancier. Another difference with this bike compared to the E3 Dash is that it's not a speed pedelec. So the top speed on this with throttle or with pedal assist is 20 miles per hour. So just keep that in mind. And frankly, given that there's more weight in the rear, that's plenty. 20 is kind of the default for most electric bikes anyway. So yeah, 48 volt battery, about 8.8 amp hours capacity. So it's pretty solid. It's about the same as the E3 Dash. It's removable, so you can charge it conveniently or reduce the weight of the bike if you're transporting this, which is awesome. And then the display. This is one of the areas where they really improved the design of the bike. You'll notice it sits on these two sort of like arms right here. Before it was just one arm, and it felt a little more delicate. You know, this still isn't removable, which is kind of a bummer, because, you know, sometimes if you're parked outside or whatever for a long period, you might want to take this off so no one tampers with it. But I think it blends in pretty well, and frankly, I love that they actually made it so you can swivel it. See how it kind of swivels? That's going to reduce the glare. Like if you're riding and the sun hits it, you can kind of aim it like this, and then it won't glare so much. And then this is a light sensor, so now if you're riding and it gets dark or cloudy, the backlight comes on automatically. So I love that thing. And the control pad has changed too. It used to be like a bulkier circle looking thing with independent buttons. Now it's all rubberized. It's completely sealed off. So it's, I think it's probably more weatherproof, which is nice. So you hold the power button for a couple seconds, bike comes on, Shows you your battery capacity with these bars, 4 levels of assist, and you use the plus and the minus to navigate those. And at the top is throttle mode, which, you know, lets you just activate the throttle. There's no pedal assist. One of the cool things they've added is that in any of the other 4 levels of assist, you can still use the throttle and it gets you started up to about 6 miles per hour, and then it cuts off. So the idea is it helps you get going, and then it basically hands it back to you. And of course, you'll get better range if you pedal, because you're helping the system along. So that's pretty cool. And then at the very bottom, if you go to like 1 and you hold the power button for 2 seconds, it changes to 0. And so what that does is it turns off all the drive, you know, a motor stuff, but it still lets you look at the speed. You can toggle over to your odometer, your trip distance, and your range. And this is really cool. It approximates your range on this thing on the fly. So see, right now I'm in 0. If I go to 1, it says about 35-mile range, 2, 32 miles, 3, 24, 4, 18. So of course, the higher you go in pedal assist, the more power you get, but the quicker you use your battery. So it's neat to have that kind of feedback. I think the display on this is really, really nice. They've done a great job with this bike overall, and just, you know, you get a lot of value. You get the support of Curry, which is distributed nationally, and you know, you could actually probably find this bike in person, give it a test ride, and it delivers a lot. It's good value. So I'm gonna hop on real quick and just do a little ride test. I'm in pedal assist level 4. As soon as I start pedaling, that cadence sensor is gonna kick in and give me some power. Yeah, just super quiet. And again, even though this is using sort of the old-fashioned cadence sensing with those 12 sensors and the software that's on this, it's just really smooth. You never feel like it's gonna jerk you around or throw you off. So yeah, that is the updated 2015 E3 Path Plus from IZIP. For more on this, including pictures, the full written review, and specs, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com.